Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So as we continue well past 400 days of an extended nightmare that Israel has been challenged with, this week was an especially difficult week on a local level in a way that feels personal for many of us. As a young man, Omer Neutra, who grew up in Syosset, Plainview, attended Solomon Schechter, went to USY, was discovered to, in fact, have been murdered on October 7th. His family thought that he was taken alive, abducted by Hamas, and they murdered him, and they took his body on the 7th, and they discovered this just this past week. And I want to come back to that, and I want to put his death in a larger context, which underscores the horror and the tragedy of this entire situation. And what I want to do is to look at it from the perspective of the dreams that a person dreams over the course of a lifetime. We actually have certain dreams, paradigmatic dreams, that are typical of different parts of our lives. And I want to take a look at that through the experience of Jacob, our father Jacob, and then understand as a backdrop how especially painful the murder of a 21-year-old and all that that represents actually is. So Jacob dreams several dreams over the course of his lifetime. And the one that really is best known is the first dream that he dreams, the dream of a ladder, sulam mutzav arza, that is rooted in the earth, that extends up to heaven, rosho magia hashamayma, angels going up and down on the ladder, and God speaking to Jacob and saying, I am the God of your father Isaac and your grandfather Jacob, and you will succeed at being a link in the chain. You will experience continuity. From you will come descendants that will extend north, south, east, and west. Now, if you take a step back, if you look at this psychologically, Jacob is having a dream, which is the perfect dream to have when you are a young person, when you are likely to feel unrooted, when you're likely to wonder, do you in fact have a place in the world? Do you have a mission? Do you have a past? Do you have a future? And Jacob's dream conveys to him, indeed, you have a glorious past, and you will also have a glorious future. You can certainly understand the dream through a Freudian lens. There are many ways to interpret it. Jacob is having the quintessential young person's dream. Now, Jacob will have other dreams. Jacob, of course, will continue beyond the precarious moments of his youth when he is in between the home where he grew up and the home that he'll establish. He has a dream as a shepherd of sheep. It's a very strange dream, but he has this dream which basically gives him the insight into how he can set himself up financially vis-a-vis his father-in-law, Laban. How is he going to succeed during that period that we've all experienced, where we're trying to establish ourselves, we're trying to set ourselves up? And then he lives further to have yet another encounter, a dream-like encounter with an ish, with this individual who wrestles with him. And at the risk of making a generalization, this encounter has elements of a midlife crisis. Jacob at this time wondering, decades later, whether in fact he'll reconcile with his brother. What's it all about? Is he on the right path? And so he has this encounter, and of course, many rabbis and many poets have written about that. And then he lives decades later, and he is surrounded by children and grandchildren, and he is going to have a vision of Acharit Hayamim, of what is ultimately going to happen. I dare say that the way it's supposed to be is that people should live past the awkwardness of that first dream, should be able to experience the struggles of later periods in one's life, should have the experience of looking out onto children and grandchildren and wondering what's going to be when I'm gone, because I've had a good run, but nobody lasts forever. A few days ago, a memorial service was held for Omer Neutra, who, as I mentioned, was discovered to have been murdered by Hamas terrorists on October 7th, 2023. An extraordinary young man, served as a Chayal Boded, as a lone soldier, defended his people, one of the first who went down to the border to offer his services on that day, one of the first, it turns out, to have been killed. He was also an ordinary young man. He was silly, as he was recalled. He was playful. He had a lot of good friends, and he enjoyed their company. And he was participating in his Solomon Schechter education and in the USY group. And so we have someone extraordinary and also ordinary who did not live to be able to experience the later dreams, the later encounters, the later struggles, the later achievements and accomplishments that all of us hope to live, to experience, and to achieve. Omer's brother Daniel spoke in a way that was searingly powerful, and he choked up as he recalled conversations that he and his brother had. His brother insisted that they have bro talks when they were teenagers, where they would just be able to share everything and nothing was off bounds, and they can talk about what was making them happy and what was making them scared. And he really choked up when he observed in front of the throngs of people that were in attendance that he and his brother would never grow old together. And just thinking about that, because our siblings are really the few people that we share as much of our life with as we do. We don't know our children or our parents for as many years as we know our siblings. And this was cut short. We have thought so much and prayed so much and spoken so much about the horrors of October 7th and beyond. And I want to look at this through a particular lens, which is, as a result of the horrors that were inflicted, make no mistake, by Hamas on October 7th and beyond, hundreds of young people are not living to be able to experience the dreams that extend beyond the dreams of youth. Hundreds of young people will never find life partners. They will never experience the challenges and the satisfactions of establishing themselves professionally. They will surely never be able to experience looking out at children and grandchildren and saying, I won't be here forever, but look what I'll leave behind. And Israelis understand full well that they need to continue to fight to defend their own existence, their own right to have children and grandchildren be able to live the fullness of their lives. And surely there are Palestinians, and I hope the number is growing, who recognize that Hamas and Hezbollah, they are not the ticket to freedom, they are not a dream, they are a nightmare. They are bringing only devastation and not liberation, and that abandoning them as leaders is the only possible path forward for their children and their grandchildren to be able to experience the fullness of life. The journalist Yossi Klein Halevi, who does a wonderful podcast, one of many that I've been listening to with Daniel Hartman, he said that when Israelis remember those who died in battle, they freeze them in childhood. They say, oh, that poor boy, or that wonderful boy, because of course they're remembering these young adults who don't live past 18 very much or 21 very much. They're remembering them as children. And who can blame them? What else can they do? But I want us to hope for and to pray for and to do what we can to advocate for a time when young people on both sides of this horror will be able to grow up and to be able to depend on growing up beyond the dreams of youth, and that they'll be able to experience the dreams of midlife and old age, that the dream of finding the perfect partner will yield to the reality of living with a wonderful yet imperfect human being, that the dream of conquering the world, the dream of saving the world will yield to the reality of making incremental contributions to an imperfect world. Meanwhile, as we are still in the Shiva for Omer Neutra, let's embrace his incredible accomplishments. Let us embrace a young man who, together with many young men and women, are truly sacrificing their lives for the Jewish state and for the Jewish people. May his ultimate sacrifice help lead to the release of the remaining hostages, whatever their current circumstance. May it lead to long-term, short-term, ultimately permanent outcomes that will improve the lives of all people who are pulled down by this horror, all people who deserve to live out the fullness of life's dreams. Amen.